this thing for the
How you
this
feeling?
time. I feel great, man.
The blog is right.
Yeah, it is.
Everything's good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this.
Always happy to be in the same space with you fellas.
Yeah, I love it, man. So I guess for this show, I'm gonna lead it off, have some fun.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I'd like to jump straight into it.
Cool.
So I want to talk to you guys about a show that I've been watching, right? Because I want to get into processes.
Okay.
One of the things I love most about seeing creators is their process. But are you guys familiar with the show How It's Made?
Yes,
I'm not.
Tell me
You're
about
not.
yes.
So there's a couple of them. How It's Made. I think National Geographic has one called Mega Factories, right? But you look at these shows and you see how things are made. For instance, like jelly beans, right? Because I think as artists sometimes, or as creators, people don't really respect our processes, right?
Right.
And you know, we had a little conversation off camera that I want to get into with Nikki about tea. But I think sometimes as a consumer, right, you don't understand the process of a creative, so you don't appreciate the value or the time put in. But on this particular show, something like jelly beans, like I didn't understand that making jelly beans is like maybe a 10 or 20 step process, right? From creating the gel to the coloring to hardening the jelly beans, right? Because looking at a jelly bean, right, you would think that, okay, they create this gel, they put this candy coating on it, and they will let it dry.
Yeah.
But it's tumblers that these jelly beans have to be put in. And they may have to tumble for 5 to 10 minutes for it to tumble, for it to get that smooth outer coating, right, without having a dents in it because it's tumbling. So I want to talk about processes with you guys, like Mone, your music, Nikki, your creative process, Marlon, you know, you're a visual guy and how you see things. While I know you love art,
Yeah.
how you put things in the frame. You're very good at storytelling, so I want to talk to you guys about process. But Nikki, let's talk about this tea that you experienced or that you saw.
Yeah. So I think knowing the process is important.
Right.
And so How It's Made, I am familiar with that show.
Right.
They'll show you anything,
Right.
like anything and everything. I think I watched a couple of episodes. One was on surfboards, how to, how to make a surfboard from start to finish, shoes.
Right.
I mean, anything that you can think of, they have probably.
Shown on the show.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. So I was watching this one episode about tea.
Yeah.
And I drink tea all the time.
Me
and
too,
so, it was about a half an hour show, but they show the process from beginning to end. And I mean, from the people in the fields picking the plants to drying it out to putting all of the plants, the pickings on this cheesecloth thingy, and then they just started rolling the cheesecloth around manually,
Right.
And then drying it out and then wetting it under a certain temperature. And if it wasn't under this particular temperature, you had
Right.
to toss it. It was crazy.
Right.
And it made me think, like, we don't pay that much.
Attention.
No.
That's facts.
It's crazy.
Cost wise, yeah, you don't pay that much for tea.
Right.
To think that that's the process.
Right.
Right. And I think, people, you have people that know the process and don't respect it,
They don't respect it.
unfortunately. But then you have people that just don't know,
Right.
so they look at this product and in their mind, okay, it can't be that much to it. Like with the jelly bean.
Right.
I would never have thought that it was like 10 or 20 steps to get to the end of a jelly bean. And so I think for people, if they understood the process, I think
Right.
they would appreciate the work more.
Indeed.
And they would appreciate the product more.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they would find value in it and would be okay with paying the price that's been set for that product.
Right.
So How It's Made is such a fly
Dope
show
It's
for
a dope
that,
show.
because I've learned so much about how to make things, and it made me appreciate
Appreciate it more.
the process,
Appreciate it
and
more.
more.
So Mone, with you and your music, right? I see you in the studio all the time cooking, right? Whether it be beats, or I also know you do videography, but you're always cooking. Can you tell us about what your process is from creating to putting together the finished product, right? Because I also know you sell your samples as well. Can you talk about the process from inspiration to creating? Because I know you work with a gentleman as well that's always on your videos on Instagram. So can you talk about your creative process, man?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it definitely starts kind of like way back. So music, like I really started music, making beats probably like when I was 16, 17.
Wow.
My father taught me how to do it. But from that point, when I was producing in the area, hip hop and rap and all that wasn't popular. It was go-go.
It's go-go,
you know what I mean? So go-go is where I started. Like I was in like 3 bands. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 3 go-go bands. I was the lead mic in 3 go-go bands. Yeah, that was my street life. Yeah, that's when I was in the streets. But yeah, that was my like influence, like go-go music and the go-go drummers and the go-go piano players and things like that. So that's part of my influence. And then reggae, because that's all I grew up listening to. All of these old songs that I'm hearing, I've heard them first in the reggae version. So when I hear it now, I'm like, oh, so this is the original. You know what I'm saying? So it's funny. But yeah, reggae and go-go is kind of like my influences when I produce, and kind of like the rhythm and just everything. It comes from either one of those sides, and it comes together and kind of like creates what I hear. But when I go in the studio, I mean, the inspiration is different each day. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I'm making like my music like my primary source. Right now the video stuff still is, but it's like my primary source is about to be the music. So what I'm doing with that, it's all about inspiration. One day could be money, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, today we're gonna make some beats that's gonna make some money, you know what I'm talking about? Another day it just might be I'm in a smooth vibe. 9 times out of 10 I'm in a smooth vibe because I'm not in the up and down and the raunchy stuff no more. So it's kind of like my vibe 9 times out of 10 is smooth. If I think, trap right now is like one of the biggest, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of people want trap beats. I don't really, like if it's my go-to, it's not really my go-to. My go-to is like, kind of like chill vibes. But yeah, if it's to make some money, the inspiration is trap.
So let me ask you, not to cut you off, how much does, because I've dabbled with, I haven't gone so far as to give my tracks to anyone. It was pretty much for learning and, like Mama said earlier in the show, just a release and therapy. How much does your scene, like your setting in terms of lighting? Because I found out, for me, whenever I created beats in the evening, lights low, she always produced chill, relaxing, smooth music. So do you find yourself having to set your scene to create a specific beat for money, or?
I get what you're saying. Not really. So with me, it's all a feeling thing. It's all in like, it's all a setting within me. Like when I'm thinking at the time, how I'm feeling, you know what I'm saying? But that also has to do with how that actual project performs. You know what I'm saying? The energy I go into it with. You know what I mean? So inside I might be feeling bright. I'm gonna make some bright stuff. You know what I'm saying? If I'm feeling low one day, I might make some dark stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it varies. A setting can definitely also have something to do with that too. You know what I'm saying? But our setting is typically the same, It's
bright.
It's just bright. I just keep it going. But we always have a plan and a mission when we go down there. You know what I mean? And to speak on my guy, Scooney, his name's Scooney. He was with me from the jump. Like,
shout out Scooney.
Yeah, shout out Scooney. Like Scoon was with me from the beginning. Like that's how we met in go-go. He was my keyboard player in go-go.
Wow.
But I always had a vision that he always believed in. And so he believes in anything and everything. So he's like, Mone, I don't want no money. I just want to be down. I see what's going on. I just believe in it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's you seen the 300, the soldiers. Like he's like one of them. Like I'm gonna die with you. We gonna do it. So that's like that. He's just riding with me. But I met him in the go-go. And the funny thing is, the whole thing, people seeing us cooking down there, they think it's just us producing, but the whole thing was, I'm working on a project, you get what I'm saying, a music project. And I'm like, School, man, let's just put up a camera and let's document this. So I just started to put up the camera, and these are I just started making the tracks for what the tracks we're gonna be working on for the product. And people just started to like it. So I'm like, damn, so we already got a good in, because people like the music. But the project ain't dropping until next year. But
I'm glad you shared that, man, because I've been following you for a minute. I didn't know that.
Yeah, nobody really knows that. Only people that's close to me. But it's like a big project we're working on. It's film and audio. It's like a mini series, like a musical.
Wow.
And it's like
dope.
that is where that started from. But a lot of people just think, oh, they making pieces tight. It's cool that they think that, but they don't know what's coming. You know, like the right hook. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
But I mean, that's also my inspiration too.
Okay.
It's the feelings of each topic that we're gonna be working on, like soul, polygamy, like all of these things. Like,
polygamy.
yeah, these are the topics that we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's kind of like inspiration. That's where the vibes come from.
Yeah.
That's everything. You know?
Wow.
So, yeah.
What about your process for? Because I know and y'all can speak on this too, but I know you've been getting a pretty large audience on like TikTok, and you got a pretty faithful following on on all your social media platforms. Has that been strategic? Like, what's been your process for growing your social media platform?
The funny thing is, there is no real strategy to it. It was just the fun. All right, so my brother, he's into bikes. You know what I'm saying? He has a huge bike like following.
Okay.
250,000 following on TikTok, on Instagram.
Okay.
So one day I asked him like, so bro, how'd you do that? He says, I just keep posting. So I was like, bet, we're gonna document this because I wanted to, before we started to work on the project, I was like, I want to document this and I want to put out certain things that's gonna, get people interested to see if it's a buzz or anything.
Yeah.
So, we have the camera, I just set up a camera and I just record. That's why you don't really see no angles, because I don't have nobody like doing it.
Right.
I just set it there and I'm just like, let it roll, you know?
Yeah.
And I just take pieces. But there really is no strategy, it's just consistency. And at the end of the day, consistency is always gonna beat everything.
Right.
And I've heard that from like a mentor. They like,
Right.
if anything, if you stay consistent,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. It's like a flower you keep watering.
Right.
It's just gonna grow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there really is no strategy. One day I just named something. I named one of the things that we do where I kind of like say a melody and he plays it.
Yeah.
I was like, we're gonna call this "Play It on the Spot." And
Yeah,
then
I've seen that.
And that's kind of like, I guess, what people are loving. And then I just keep it going. You know what I
Right.
mean? I picked up.
Hashtag play it on the spot.
Yeah, play it on the spot. So that's what it is. Really, no strategy. It's just people like it, they seeing it, and they keep seeing it. Cause I'm keep going. That's all I do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's kind of like how it came about.
Cool.
Right.
Sweet.
Then it go like.
I won't be singing. That's hard. Back down.
They can do that, but I mean, I'm open to whatever else.
That's what you want?
Yeah. There you go.
Stop it.
That's him. Chilling in the booth, man. That's the vibe for sure. We gonna lay that real quick.
All right.
Let me save it first.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm gonna come back to you, Nikki, but Marlon, a lot of people don't know your background in communication.
Right.
You know, I know recently a lot of people have started to follow your movement with the art advocacy and things of that nature.
Right.
But people don't know what you did at TNT,
Right.
right? They don't know about the documentary you shot.
Right.
They don't know about the videos that you've done and you've helped artists create.
That's crazy.
Right. So can you talk about, so piggybacking off Mone and mood, right? When it comes to visuals and determining how you're going to direct something based on mood, what's that process like? Do you, of course, I'm sure the artists give you input, but when it comes to, let's talk about what you were doing for TNT, right, with the basketball. Can you talk about your process, basically what you did, what they asked of you, and how you would create in that process?
Yeah. So in my former life, I was, a writer and producer in broadcasting. But so I was heavy in filmmaking and video and film production. So from the video film production perspective, that creation process stems from the story.
Okay.
Right? It's all about the story that you're trying to share, the narrative that you're trying to create.
Right.
So for the NBA, for example, I used to write all of the promos for the next game.
Okay.
And even with that, something that small, you're still thinking, it's still story driven.
So when you talk about promos, what do you mean? Like the Atlanta Hawks are getting ready to play the LA Clippers.
Right.
So what type of promo would
So you would say something along the lines of, now granted, they would be cheesy, kind of corny.
Right.
And my supervisor and the directors would always be, the cheesier the better. But you would say something about, you would do a play on words, you said the
Los Angeles Clippers, Atlanta Hawks.
So you would say, the Hawks are going to fly in to clip the,
I got you.
Clippers, tonight at 8,
Right.
So it's you always looking for some kind of, or there's a storyline going on between the two teams and the players. So there may be some history there. Let's say somebody on the Clippers used to play for the Hawks. So you would say revisiting. You'll play on the storyline. So you're always trying to find the story and the narrative, and then you match the visuals to complement the story that you're trying to say.
Okay.
But that's the most I've never shared this, but the most fascinating part of filmmaking and video production for me, especially in those days, was my sessions with voiceover artists. I mean, that used to be the coolest part, because a lot of the voiceover artists I worked with, they also they were heavy in LA, so they did all of the movie trailers. So it would be fun because we would call them, to set up the appointment.
Right.
And their natural speaking voice would be totally different. They would switch, when it's time to record, they
Right.
go into that,
Right.
Terminator mode. Yeah. The voice is
EA
deep.
Sports, right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just like, wow. It's like, in boxing, let's get ready to, rumble.
Right.
It's like, that guy, I think,
Right.
was a very, very successful and
For sure.
and expensive voiceover artist as well. He did other things as well, but yeah, it was just working with those voiceover artists. That was really, really cool.
Right.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So Nikki, you and creating, right? You just recently created a piece live. You did some live painting. Now, watching the finished piece and seeing you create I love to see other artists create, right? Because I like to get into techniques. Being new and self-taught, I like to watch other people's techniques so I can pick up a skill or two, right? So I watched you paint a piece, and it was a young lady in the center. There were two more faces on her shoulders, which I thought were her daughters. Marlon said they were earrings, right? Which makes it more crazy. But the ease in which you started the piece, right? Normally I labor over faces when I paint. So can you tell us about your process when you're doing something live versus the piece we may show later, the uplifted piece that we talked about. Can you talk about your process and what it means in the diversity of creating live and being alone and painting, what your processes are like?
When I paint live, I'm feeling froggy. You know, I'm feeling free,
Okay.
right? And so it's something in my head that I need to get out, and I need to get it out quickly. Uplift is more of it was a lot more thought in that piece, and it's something that I could have never done live. The labor in it is more, the thought in it is more. You know, I could not produce a piece like that on camera, on the spot, like that.
Right.
But when I am live, I am not really thinking of anything. It's something in my head, and I just feel like it needs to come out.
Okay.
And I'm allowing myself to not be so caught up in the thought process. And it's automatic. It's not, oh, Nikki, you know, this is what you need to do.
Right.
You know, it's just nothing like that. It's a feeling where I'm just feeling creative at the moment. I'm feeling inspired. And it's like an itch that you just gotta scratch, you know, and it's not, you're not feeling any real, I feel gratification over those pieces. So
to jump in and piggyback, right? Because I know sometimes when I paint and I'm being raw like that, sometimes, this is just me, I feel like I can look at a canvas and it's blank and the canvas will tell me what to do. I don't know if it's, maybe it's my subconscious mind imprinting a picture onto the canvas.
That's crazy.
But sometimes I can look at a canvas and it'll just tell me, okay, I want to put the head over here, or I want to start in this corner or in the center. In your live painting process, is that what you do when you say it's that itch?
It varies actually.
Right.
I think I was telling Mone, because Mone had dropped by Grindstone when I was there live painting. And the piece with the woman and the two faces on her shoulders, which are her earrings, I saw all of that in one. Like I saw that whole piece in my head before I started.
Damn, that's crazy.
Right? But at Grindstone, similar faces actually.
Right.
If you see those two pieces, they're very similar.
Right.
I saw a piece in my head, but it was incomplete. You know, so as I was painting, I was developing the image in my mind as I was painting. So I would finish a piece on the canvas, but my mind was ahead of the game. It was ahead of the canvas.
Right.
And it was developing something else, and then it would just send me like, here's what's next.
Right.
Then I would put it on the canvas. Here's what's next. Then I put it on the canvas until it became whole. So it kind of varies.
Okay.
It's strange.
No, it's
That's
not.
dope.
Explain.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's crazy.
You just sparked. I have a question for you as it relates to speed, or the pace and speed of creating a piece. Because you know, as an advocate, I work with a lot of new first-time art collectors, and they'll ask questions like, you know, how long did it take to make this piece? As though like the value is determined by how long it took. And so my question to you, and it relates to music as well, but my question to you is, how does your value of your pieces differ based on how fast you complete them? Because if you paint live and you're doing them that fast in that moment, would that devalue that piece over something that you thought through and took time to create?
It's funny you say that, because for some reason, all of my live pieces, I price them less than the pieces that I spend a lot of time on. And I don't know whether that's on purpose or just because of what I know I'm going through when I'm creating a piece that takes a lot of thought, a lot of time, a lot of mixing of the colors. You know, I'm stretching the canvas and I am taking the stapler and I'm making the canvas myself and things like that. When it's live, it's on the spot, it's quick, it's it's just like a gratification, you know, like you're in the mood.
Right.
And then after you get off, you like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that.
Right.
But when you're more, sensual with it, when it has more foreplay. You know, yes, I do value those pieces more in my
Wow.
mind, and I put a higher price tag on it because I know that it may involve a situation that has happened to me, and I'm
Wow.
putting those emotions
Wow,
and
okay.
you know those
Makes
things
sense.
inside of that piece. Yeah.
It's vice versa
yes.
with me though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found my all of the beats I made like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
They bring me the most traffic, and I sell it for the highest prices.
Really?
Yeah,
So-
the beats I spend longer on
Yeah.
tend to either not finish them
Mhm.
or they won't sell.
What?
Really?
Yeah, but I think it's like it's almost like what you said. It's like being in that moment when I capture it.
Caught that vibe.
Yeah.
Caught the
It's a zen.
vibe.
It's
It's
like
like
a zen
it's like the
moment.
spirit,
Right,
like
right,
right.
and it's the spirit that's happening
I get
on right
that.
there. So it's like, okay, so this went viral like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
then I
yeah.
sold this for that.
Yeah.
I only spent 10 minutes on it, but I was in the spirit
It was in that
all
zen-
the
that
way,
zen moment.
rather than thinking. You know what I'm saying?
That
It was
zen
just I
moment.
was just letting it flow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Creativity
saying?
No,
moving
it's-
through
The
you.
spirit took over. See, that's why I wanted to hear your perspective as well from the music side, because we'll hear interviews where Jay-Z or somebody will say, I went down, laid down the verse in 5 minutes,
Yeah,
and it's a
facts.
record. It's a record that went like platinum.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like you recorded that in 5 minutes.
Facts.
And so I think it depends on each artist, right? But I feel like it shouldn't be based on time.
I agree.
Definitely,
it
for
shouldn't
sure.
Be,
It
it
should-
shouldn't be.
But
yeah.
but like you said, there will be some. It will vary based on how much
I
you
agree
feel
with that.
you've put into it, how much.
I get your perspective though. Like,
I get it. I definitely
the
get it.
emotion,
Yeah.
where it's coming from, how you just it's like all in that, so it's more
Right,
valuable.
right, right.
I hear it's like you captured that and
Yeah.
that on the painting. I hear that.
Yeah.
I definitely hear it.
Because
It
when
was-
that creativity, I'm sorry, Nikki, when that creativity strikes you, like you said, it's like in a bottle,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
When you live, maybe you don't put the pressure on yourself. I don't know what it is, but when the right creativity hits you, it just comes out,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
So sometimes that's where my, let's say for lack of better terms, what may feel like creative arrogance comes from, right? Because I know once the idea strikes me and the moment is right, it's gonna flow. No matter how complicated the process, it's just gonna flow.
That's facts.
And that's why I'm not a visual artist, but that's why I would think that it's harder to paint live. Because I would think it's more so if you in your house or in your studio and you have 2 weeks and you can retouch lines and you can do clean up certain areas. When you paint live, I feel like you on the spot. You got to produce. I feel like that's even harder.
No, you're absolutely right, and that makes sense. But painting live, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But painting live is easier for me.
That's dope.
It's easier
That's
for me
the
too.
crazy thing.
Really?
It's easier for me. Yeah.
Wow.
When I'm painting
That's cool.
live and I feel like, okay, I'm ready to go live. And sometimes I paint like that and I don't have a camera or anything around me. You know what I'm saying? But those moments where I had that itch that needs to
Yeah.
be scratched, those paintings, they come out, right?
Right.
But and it's funny because those are the pieces that get the most attention.
Less pressure, more free flowing.
Yeah.
That's exactly
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because, and also, I don't want to say it's cheating, but it's almost, when you have people who love art, right? They just appreciate the art. They're not laboring over the painting like we are, right? When we're creating,
That's
right? They're
facts.
not laboring over the melody. Is this key right or is this in sync? They just want to see the artist paint in the process. So I completely get it. You know what I mean? I didn't understand that first, but just when we were doing our exhibitions, I would put paintings over the wall. One of the paintings that people love most was one I did in like 30 or 40 minutes.
Right.
And that's quick in painting time.
That's quick.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
For me, it's quick.
It's
Okay.
definitely quick if you look at more detail or people who
I
try
got
to
you.
capture more detail. Because the detail, when you labor over those details, it can take a long time.
I got you.
Some of these pieces, like my brother in the back,
Yeah, he's
Oh,
dope.
yeah.
it's a lot of detail. So laboring over those details can take time. But when you're just free flowing and you're applying
And
it,
they got the most people on it.
Shout out to
You know what I really
Jamie,
think?
yeah,
Jamie
shout out to
Monroe.
Jamie for
Oh, yeah,
these
shout out
dope
to
pieces.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think when you start to think too much, I know for me, I feel like you start getting in the way of the spirit, the creative spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like once that spirit hits you, it's like all on there, all in it.
Yeah.
And then the world and the universe gravitates towards that because it came from the spirit.
It came from the spirit, indeed.
And I like that. Yeah, I've
And
noticed
there's
that.
several ways to look at it, right? If you think about it, when we look at this gentleman's work, I mean, I'm looking at all of this detail, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of detail.
And that just added value to me. Like, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? It added value now. You know, he may have produced a piece live. I don't know if he does that. But what I'm saying is that if he was producing a piece live like me and it was 30-minute piece, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm like, how many hours?
I see what you. I
How
feel you.
many hours? Because there's no way that he
feel
could ever do that live
It
without it being.
Sometimes
It goes
take
back
time.
to, this circles back to the whole point of appreciating the process,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
the tea conversation and the jelly bean, because yeah, you do have to, I get that, you do have to add, it may not be, you know, greater or less, but you do have to give the value to the person or the product that has more detail.
But it's some
Right.
hype in those quick, aggressive
Yeah.
creations.
How does
It's a lot
the
of energy.
consumer react to like seeing detail? Do they understand that, or is it just this is dope from a like based on like paintings? Like how does that work?
I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, go ahead, continue.
I think the consumer perspective is based on how much information they have, or how much knowledge they have in that subject,
Okay.
right? Because a newcomer may not know an elaborate piece from a not so elaborate piece.
Gotcha.
You know, it may just look like all acrylic or oil paint put together. But I think in a more experienced, seasoned buyer that has had a little bit more education, that may have been around some visual artists, that have seen some processes, that have taken some time to learn about it. Just like with music, right? You know, once you learn, you know, how many instruments that actually it took to create this sound, you know, you have a greater appreciation for it. So I think it comes from your level of awareness and education on
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah, and I think also for the people who may not be as savvy as you're mentioning, I just think it comes down to the individual. Are you a detail-oriented individual? What speaks to you? Are you a simplistic person? Because simplistic paintings may speak to your spirit more than somebody who's detail-oriented. If you're detail-oriented, you may naturally gravitate to those detail-oriented pieces. But I think ultimately, and I could be completely wrong, ultimately people are attracted to style of music, style of art, style of visualization, and directors. Like we all gravitate to certain types of movies.
Right.
So I think it's all in who you are, and that's what's going to speak to you when you see it for the first time. But I want to, one more question for you, Nikki. So the more detailed pieces, when you paint those more detailed pieces, do you find yourself looking at references? Because when I see some of the best artists in the world, they often use references, right? Do you use references? Do you use references to compose the piece from a visualization? So you have an idea in your head and you say, okay, I'm gonna go find references to create the piece? Or how does that work for you?
Yeah. I do that sometimes. Sometimes I have the piece so burnt in my mind that I can take it from my mind to the canvas. You know, but other times it's fuzzy. Then I'll need, like if I'm painting a horse, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I may need to see a picture of a horse,
Right.
you know, to help bring the picture to life. But yeah, artists, they do that quite a bit, you know, use references, because it's kind of difficult, you know, to bring a piece from here to the canvas.
Right.
Exactly how you see it in your mind, and you
Yeah.
do need that assistance. So I don't hate on anybody that has to do that,
Yeah, of
'cause
course.
it's hard.
It is.
You know,
it's
and
not
I
as
think
easy
it-
just because the references are there.
Absolutely. And I think if people understood how difficult it is to create, you know, then they would appreciate,
Right.
you know, the piece a little bit more.
Right.
You have some pieces that aren't detailed at all. There's an artist who I follow, and her work, she doesn't have very detailed pieces, but all of her pieces tell an extreme story. And she has a bunch of followers because every piece makes you feel something inside, you know, and they're not following her for her skill set, you know, the ability to be able to, you know, draw realistic or hyper realistic type pieces, you know. And then I know a hyper realism artist, and he doesn't have many followers at all because he just does faces. And it doesn't tell a story or make you feel anything. But if you're a true art lover, or you understand how much work it took to make this picture look like a photo, then you will follow him and you'll stay with him because you know that was hella difficult. You know, so it just kind of depends. Okay.
And I'm gonna come to you, Marlon, but I want to ask Mone about your process in terms of when you create music. Do you find yourself, you know, I hear some artists say they don't listen to other music, or they may not listen to other artists, right? Because hearing that inspiration can sometimes bleed over into their music. So when you're creating, let's say for the project that you're working on, do you find that you have to listen to certain references in regards to music to create a certain sound for a scene you may be setting with the music? Because I'm sure you do that as well. So can you talk about that?
When I'm producing for me, I don't need any references because I know how I feel and I know how I want other people to feel. So I can only draw that from inside of me. But when I'm making beats for like other artists or like even films and stuff like that, I use references because it's like because my sound isn't out. It's like they're going off of what they see and what they hear. It's kind of like the predominant sound. So like, I want it to sound like this. So I can listen to it and I can break it down in my mind. I take this, I take this, I take this. And I add my own little piece to it. You know what I mean? The style of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like how I use references.
Right, because for me, I'm a big fan of like soundtracks to movies. Right, so Star Wars, right? I don't know if anybody pays attention, but Star Wars, the soundtrack is amazing, right?
Crazy.
When you deal with the orchestra and those different sounds, the Tiffany's, right? Tiffany's coming in, you have the violins, or you may hear a little oboe and a flute in the background. Like, does that play any part? So when you're going for those sounds, right? Does that play a part at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, specifically when it comes to like making like scores for film, that's heavy. Because I mean, a score for a film is not like a loop. It's like something that's constantly. So you listen to great soundtracks like that, and you're like, all right, let me put it in a symphony in here. Right. Build it up a little bit. Let me put a flute in here so it could kind of like sound lonely or empty. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like listening to great pieces when I'm working on a film is like, all right, bet. Let me listen to something like this. It's in the same range that I can then go ahead and like do my own thing for this film. Because it's this chick, I gotta shout her out. She's my mentor. Her name is Tresha Zariel. And she's kind of like a big film producer.
Shout out Tresha.
Yeah, Tresha. Megaminds Media. But so I got my first like big placement in one of her films that was on BET. And what she did, she was like, so I needed to sound something similar to this, but don't make it like this. Make your own thing. I listened to it. She was like, all right, bet I can do that. So I kind of took the vibe, but made it my way. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like how I use reference.
Okay. So I want to transition a little bit into passion and purpose, Marlon. I know that's something that you want to talk about. So in your, I know you did the documentary, right? It was on albinism. I'm sorry.
They look
please forgive me.
Yeah, they look at the term albino as derogatory.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Please, albinism. I'm sorry. I'm not a completely politically correct guy, but that's something that was a passion for you that you took on to create the film.
Yeah.
So for you taking that passion that you had for the community and articulating that into a film or documentary, can you tell us a little bit about that process? Yeah,
definitely. And first, I wanted to really make the distinction between, purpose and passion. A lot of times, I speak to a lot of people and they'll a lot of people are struggling with finding their passion. You know, they're like, I just, you know, I don't know what my passion is, you know. And I usually tend to fall back on, you know, it's kind of cliche, but it's the thing that everybody say, you know, whatever you love doing that you would do without getting paid for. That thing that you love doing just for the love of it. But also I've found that I've grown to learn, or I've learned that your passion will serve you. Your purpose will serve other people.
Right.
Right. And if done right, you know, they both will, you know, be equally as important, and they'll work together. Because if you're putting your passion out there to the world, you're actually going to start connecting with people, and people are going to support you, and it will kind of help you define your purpose.
Right.
Right. So it's important to have both in play. But I think that's why I work with so many artists, visual artists, who align with art activism or activists, because I'm really big on, as you guys know, you know, giving back to the community, working, you know, just reaching back. And so working on that project, it was very important to me to share that guy's story, but also the bigger story of why it's why it's important for us to, you know, pay attention to people who are different than us or look different than us.
Right.
You know, celebrate and embrace our differences.
Right.
Because the thing that I found that was really unique about his story was that he would go through. His first name was Ed, and I'm not remembering his last name right now, because this was almost.
It was a long
20
time
years
ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, but the subject in the documentary, he shared a story with us about his childhood going to school, and you know, we all had one or two people who lived with albinism in our school, and what I shared with him was that, you know, it wasn't really a big deal, you know, to us. But he said, "Did you talk to him?" And I thought for a second. I said, "Nah, I didn't." And he said, "See, that's the problem with I grew up, no one paid attention to me. No
Wow.
one." He said there was times when he actually wished he did get teased and picked on, because he felt so ostracized. He had no place, right? He was too white to be black. He was too black to be considered white. So white folks didn't,
Right.
you know, befriend him, and the black folks didn't befriend him. So
Right.
he was kind of stuck in his weird place growing up. And I just found that interesting that, I was like, nobody picked with the kids in our school that was
Right.
living with albinism, but it's actually worse to not get any attention.
Right.
You know, listen to his story. It's like,
Right.
you know, that was even more painful. So, but yeah, you know, I was just really passionate about that, and it was probably one of my best projects I've ever worked on.
Right.
Dope.
So in terms of articulating power in films, right?
Yeah.
You know, I heard Spike Lee say that if you want to shoot somebody and make them feel powerful, you shoot from below.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you want to shoot, you know, make them feel small, you shoot from above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you go about articulating that? And I'm sure the story plays a part.
Yeah.
But is there anything that can differentiate certain scenes where you may go against that, those fundamentals, in terms of your creation? Or is it based on the director and
It's-
what they want to
Yeah.
portray?
That and the mood of the film,
Okay.
the mood of the story.
Mhm.
That's where music comes in a lot.
Right.
You know, music will drive the emotion of the film.
Okay.
You know, and then cinematically you get into, you know, you have a lot of other things like color and a lot of components of cinematography that you can drive the mood. But music and sound is a big part of it.
Okay.
You know, you mentioned Star Wars. One of my favorite films where sound, I was like blown away by sound, is the first Matrix. Like if you listen to, I mean, it's just so those directors, they were really big on sound effects. Like it's not just the musical scoring, but it's the sound effects.
Right.
It's the sounds of, like, you know, it's just like synthesizers and just all kinds of different things, like the wind, you know,
Right.
footsteps, you know, just everything. It's just so pronounced in that film. Like it gives you the mood. Like again, with the lighting,
Right.
you know, the Matrix, it felt dark,
Mm-hmm.
but it was also the way that they did the sound in that film. They gave you that feel
Right.
and that mood. It set the tone for the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's, you know, you can do camera angles where you show power or you want to make a certain statement
Right.
with camera angles, but I think it's also some other components too. But yeah, I have never gone against it. I usually follow the script when it comes to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to open the floor up for you guys to talk about passion and purpose. Like, as creatives, I don't think that's something, until you get to know us, I don't think that's something that people take into consideration. Because I think as creatives, we all create with a purpose in mind. But sometimes when we create, and Nikki, you know, I don't want to speak with you about this, and Mone, you feel free to
Yeah,
jump
sure.
in. But you spoke about sometimes not always having the passion there when you create. I can say several times I've been in that state when I want to create something. The mood is there, but the passion may not be there, especially with music. In the times that I was dabbling, I want to create something, but that mood isn't there. The creativity isn't quite there.
Yeah.
And therefore, I may not finish the track.
Right.
I may set it aside. So you guys can jump in.
And as we close on this, can you share, after you share, can you share a lesson or something that a new artist or an emerging artist can learn from, perfecting their process or valuing, the process and their purpose, and how you go about it.
So ladies first, I guess we go.
Yeah, so with me, I'm not always passionate about art. And I'm going to be completely and totally honest about that, right? I think you always expect to hear from a creative
Yes.
that, listen, I'm passionate, I'm raw about this, I'm always, and you have artists who are like that.
Yes, they are.
And it's really embedded deep in them, and they're always thinking about, and I respect those individuals so much
Absolutely.
because they're productive and they get things done, and they're going to get to their goal a lot quicker than someone who, like me, has so many different other things other than art going on that I have to find a place for art.
Right.
Does that make me less passionate? No, I don't think so.
I wouldn't even have thought, when you look at your work and your page, I would have never known.
Yeah, you.
I would have thought that you was
Passion
like,
is always there.
yeah, it comes off so passionate.
Yeah, no, me and art,
She said,
we're
no.
in a relationship. Like, it can
Okay.
get real moody sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
like you, you don't like me, and it's
Right.
all good.
It's
And
all good.
we're real transparent like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's a forever thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those relationships, like, okay, it's some ups and downs here,
Right.
but you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's just go ahead and get through this,
Right,
right?
I like that. I
And
like
then
that.
when we get together and it feels like one,
Yeah.
that's when the best work is created, right? And so it kind of makes up for that gap, for
Gotcha.
that time where we weren't getting along so much.
Gotcha.
And so that's what kind of artist I am. I know it's going to be around forever. Now, there are moments, like for new artists who really want to make it a career thing, I do not suggest my process. Right? Because I'm still learning how to, wake up in the morning in those days where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like being bothered with you, meaning art. I got to get around that.
Right.
I have to. I have to say, you know what? Some things I don't feel like doing that day, but I know I need to do that day.
Right.
And this is the reason why I don't really get into commissions that much. Because commissions are demanding,
Yes, they are.
right? And you have to focus on those deadlines.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm like, Mone, he mentioned that his references, or when he rely on references a little bit, is mainly when he's doing something for someone else. But when I'm doing stuff for me, I don't ever use a reference really.
Right.
I like those, the only commissions that I've been taking recently are the individuals who say, listen, I want you to just do whatever. I don't have a preference.
Yeah.
I don't care what color you use.
Yeah.
I don't care the size, and I don't care. And I'll be like,
That's
You
the best.
know,
That's the best.
those.
free to create.
Oh my gosh! Because I feel like I'm creating for myself,
Right.
and then when I present the piece to the person, they're loving it just because they just know
Right.
that it is all me.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, like.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's dope.
that's dope.
So with me, what was the question again?
So, people don't understand. I think as creators, we all create with a purpose.
Okay.
Right? For you and your music, is there a time when you don't feel the passion or?
Yeah. I mean, there's times that can get your mind can be your worst enemy or your worst friend.
Right.
And at times when it's my worst enemy, because of a lot of other endeavors that I'm in, it can kind of have me not so passionate about doing music. But I push through it and I just like, fuck it, let me go down there anyway.
Right.
No cussing my bad.
No,
I'm like, I'm like, damn, let me go down there anyway and do it. But when I get in it, I'm reminded like, damn, this is why I love it. Like I get into it, I start and I'm like, that feeling grows on me again.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
damn, this is why I love it, because
Right.
I feel it. I'm very passionate about it though, you know what I'm saying? Throughout the year, I would say it's probably 10% of the time throughout the year, I might be kind of like low when I'm not like in the mood to make music.
Right.
But 90% of the time, I mean, I snap out of it real
Yeah,
quick because
yeah.
I have levels to where I need to be and what I need to do in order to get to my next level in life. So it's like, that's what makes me snap out of it as well.
Right.
And it's just the fact that I always have in the back of my mind that you're not gonna live forever. The only thing that can live forever is what you leave here. You know what I'm saying? And
I like that.
yeah, like your music can live here forever.
Right.
A piece of art can live forever. You know what I'm saying? And the passion that I take to do my craft and people watching it, this following that I'm growing, seeing it, I inspire others to do they thing. I get messages all the time.
Yeah.
And that also lives forever because it can trickle over into
Absolutely.
families, generations, boom,
Absolutely.
boom, boom. So that's like really the why and why I do what I do. And the my purpose. I feel like my purpose is to inspire others, is to leave a legacy, but it's
Right.
also, while I'm here, leave something that's historic, that's gonna,
Yeah.
move forward while I'm
Yeah.
gone. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
And when it comes to like the advice that I would give like other musicians or up and coming producers, I mean, like, as artists, nothing is easy when it comes to keep going.
Yeah.
But I mean, you hear it all the time. It's cliche. Like, if you keep going, you're gonna get through it.
You're
You know
gonna
what
get
I'm
through
saying?
it.
And that's all I do. The persistence, having a strong foundation around you too, a team. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because like, if I didn't have like my brother, my man Scoon, and like my father's very supportive, if I didn't have them, that also can play tricks on your mind,
Yeah.
your purpose, you know what I'm saying? Because you're not gonna make money right out the
Right.
gate out of
Right.
it, you know what I'm saying? I just always been like a hustler from the core, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah.
From the hardest hustle, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, this was nothing to me. It's like, I'll figure it out, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So going in it that way, I'm not really dependent on, I gotta make money. I'm just letting it flow and letting
Yeah.
everything come to me,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's kind of like how I think too. So, like artists, I feel like as long as you just believe 100% in what you're doing,
Absolutely.
even on the down days, you might,
Absolutely.
like how Nikki said, she goes through it, but she always comes back to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when you get there, I feel like you just keep going. You're gonna break through some way, somehow. It's just
Yeah.
law. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
indeed.
That's like my advice.
It's beautiful, man. So for me, unless you guys have anything to say, I think that's a great way to end
I do.
this week's show.
Yeah.